The dawnlight still lay in mottled patches on the sea as wisps of pink cloud drifted across the clear sky of the coastal town of Havenport. Clara Bennett pulled her pale green Mini Cooper to a stop at the roadside in front of the small military base nestled among rows of pines. Today was her first day teaching an after-school painting class to elementary students, and she'd arrived earlier than usual, hoping to snap a few landscape photos for her lesson materials. She took out her keyring and frowned when the car door lock jammed. Bending over, her hand trembling, she tried to turn the key, but the cylinder would not budge. A brief wave of panic washed over her, alone at the roadside, and her phone was almost dead. "Looks like you need a hand." A low male voice sounded behind her. Clara turned to see a tall man in a deep blue uniform, the epaulets of a captain gleaming on his shoulders. His bearing was stern, almost cold, but his gaze softened when it rested on her. Yes, thank you," she replied hesitantly. He stepped forward, examined the lock, and pressed just hard enough to free the door with a creak. "I got your key stuck," she stammered. "Name's Nate," he said simply, offering her a neatly pressed handkerchief. "Captain Blackwood." Clara looked up and smiled. "I'm Clara Bennett. Thank you so much." For a moment the sunlight filtering through the pine boughs haloed her golden hair in a soft glow. Nathaniel Nate Blackwood nodded briefly, said nothing more, and turned to leave. Clara found herself glancing after him. He looked like a figure from a classical painting, aloof and mysterious, yet there was something inescapably magnetic about him. "Where are you off to?" she called. He paused, turned back, his deep blue eyes meeting hers. "Patrolling the perimeter." Clara smiled to herself. Patrol already? But she waved. "Have a good day, Captain Blackwood." The base gate closed behind him, leaving Clara standing between the empty lot and the distant lapping of waves. Her heart was beating oddly fast. In that chance moment of helping her, she had felt a strange connection to the quiet soldier. Shaking her head, she told herself not to overthink it, climbed in, and drove off. That afternoon, after school dismissed, Clara drove back to her little studio on Elm Street, set up her easel and stacked blank canvases along the wall. The scent of fresh acrylic and new paper mingled with the aroma of milk coffee in the cozy room, calming her nerves. Meanwhile, Nate patrolled along the iron fence around the base. He wore a windbreaker and held his walkie-talkie firmly, but his mind drifted back to the morning's encounter. Years in the service had taught him to suppress emotion and never let his guard down, especially when a stranger appeared near the border. Yet the image of Clara, her gentle smile and trusting eyes, would not leave him. He found himself wanting to draw her out of her solitude, to show her a warmer, more colorful world. He rebuked himself. Focus on your duty. This is not a romance. As dusk fell, Clara bade farewell to her students and packed up their doodles. She was reviewing tomorrow's lesson when she heard heavy footsteps at the door. Her heart skipped. "Captain Blackwood?" She looked up in surprise. There he stood, shoulders squared, still holding his cap. "I forgot my painting supplies at the base this morning," he said, handing her a small canvas bag. Inside were tubes of paint and brushes, brand new, high quality. "These are mine?" she whispered. "I heard you left in a hurry, so I arranged to have them sent over," Nate replied, his voice calm but the corner of his mouth lifting in a fleeting smile. Blushing, Clara accepted the bag. "Thank you, Nate." A quiet moment stretched between them as the sunset painted the sky outside his window. Clara toyed with her lip. "Stay a while. I'm preparing tomorrow's materials." Nate hesitated, then nodded. "All right." So it was that, in the soft glow of her studio, only the sound of brushstrokes on paper, they began to share shy conversation and tentative strokes of paint. Two hearts, once encased in armor, found themselves drawn together like sunlight through summer clouds. The next morning, before the first light crested the pines, Clara arrived at her favorite Elm Street cafe to pick up a latte. Vintage wooden tables, a vase of wildflowers, and warm yellow lamps gave the place an inviting glow. She settled by the window, set her bag of art tools beside her, and began organizing her notes. Barely 2 minutes passed when the door swung open and Nathaniel Nate Blackwood entered, his patrol uniform still bearing dew from the dawn. Spotting Clara, he paused in slight surprise. She waved. "Captain Blackwood. Coffee with me?" He hesitated, then gave a small nod. "If it's not too much trouble. I'll have a black espresso." Clara beamed and ordered 2 lattes and a scone. "You need energy for a soldier. It's on me." Nate reached for his wallet. "Let me treat next time." "You don't need to. I already said I invited you," she teased, arching an eyebrow. Finally he sat down across from her, placing his cap neatly on the table. Clara slid a steaming latte his way. "Hot's better." He took a sip, the bittersweet steam warming him, yet he kept his usual reserve. "Good coffee." Clara grinned. "I like trying new cafes to see people's tastes. What's yours?" Nate furrowed his brow, thinking. "I like it bitter, no sugar." She nodded, flipping her hair back. "That's my style when I paint, no sugar, plenty of bold strokes. Ever tried painting?" Surprised into a soft laugh, he admitted, "Never. Tomorrow I'll bring you paper. You seemed interested watching me." He looked up. "I was curious enough to stay and help." Yielding to her open sincerity, he smiled. "All right, I'll give it a try." Their conversation flowed from his childhood drills and military discipline to her inspiration and artistic goals. Whenever Clara spoke of her little students, Nate's expression softened. He'd never been around children much. Before half an hour passed, Clara's phone buzzed. "The kids are here," she exclaimed, gathering her things. Nate rose, brushing back hair. "I'll come watch your class sometime." She brightened. "Really? You want to meet them?" He nodded. "To see your teaching." "Great." She laughed, rushing out. Nate watched the tranquil street, realizing this simple coffee had left a lasting first impression. Clara's heart fluttered. Nate, though determined to keep his distance, could not deny the joy of being near her gentle smile. That afternoon she planned to paint a small gift for him, while Nate secretly wondered, "Will I make it back in time?" That sunny afternoon, the final school bell had barely died away when Clara and her students packed up paints and paper. Her open-air studio sat on the edge of a sand dune, willow branches swaying by the base gate. As Clara helped a child tuck colors into a box, she looked up to see Captain Nathaniel Nate Blackwood arriving at the school's side gate. He carried a large blank canvas like a drawing board, his hair still damp with morning dew. Clara's face lit up. "Nate. Just in time. Today we're having a plein-air painting picnic on the dunes." He nodded, in a warmer tone than usual. "I'm here to see you teach, and to try painting." She handed him the canvas. "Here, try a small landscape. I've got your brushes, watercolors, and honey cookies for lunch." He sat up under a willow, gazing out at the golden sand stretching to the fence, the blue sea beyond. Clara planted an easel beside him and explained gently, "First, draw 2 horizon lines, sky and vanishing point, then wash in the pale sky. I'll demonstrate." Nate watched each of her strokes, then lifted his brush and laid down a pale blue wash. "Good, bold first strokes," Clara praised. A pleased flush warmed him as he added details under her guidance. Nearby, one of the older students ran up, presenting her work. "Miss Clara, look, I painted the sea and willows." Wonderful, very lively, Clara told her, then motioned to Nate. See. This student has real talent. Nate knelt beside her, smiling rarely but kindly. Beautiful, your gift. The girl beamed, standing proud beside the soldier she'd heard Clara describe as a role model dad. Clara felt his warmth toward the children. Nate felt something soften in his chest. It was a happiness the military could never give him. 2 hours passed in paint and laughter before Clara brought out a tray of honey cookies and cups of Lipton tea. The children clamored to share cookies with Nate, who finally accepted one and nibbled thoughtfully. Clara sipped her tea, gazing at the crimson evening sky. This sunset is gorgeous, but your painting's not finished. I want you to watch it with me for inspiration. Nate said nothing but stood beside her, watching the sky blush. A small student spoke. Nate, will you come again tomorrow? He bent and replied warmly, yes. In that glow of sunset, two worlds, military discipline and artistic freedom, found a bridge in shared color and care, hinting that a friendship, and perhaps something deeper, was already taking root. Before sunrise the next day, Clara was already in her kitchen baking lemon oat cookies for their Dune picnic. She mixed the dough, folded in thin strips of lemon zest, and placed each ball on the tray, breathing in the sweet citrus aroma. You'll like these, she thought with anticipation. Meanwhile, Captain Nate Blackwood awoke in the night, startled by the lingering taste of latte and the echo of children's laughter in his mind. He should have locked away all emotion, but Clara in her white blouse, barefoot and painting sunset, kept appearing before his eyes. He sat up, staring in the mirror. No distractions, he warned himself. That morning, security checks over, Clara drove through the base gate with her cookie box and silver teapot. She squeezed past the automated barrier and spotted Nate waiting under a willow. Good morning. I brought cookies for today's painting. Thank you, he said softly. He looked at her with surprise. Today she seemed especially radiant. She held out the tin. Lemon oat cookies. Try one. You made these? He sounded incredulous. Yes, for your energy. He bit one, its sweet tart flavor made his lips curve upward. They're delicious. In the picnic that followed, Clara taught the children perspective while Nate quietly observed and answered their shy questions about his artistic skill. Clara invited him to rest on a cloth under the willow. She brewed tea, the steam curling with lemon fragrance. Have some, that'll warm you up. Thank you, he replied more warmly. She sat beside him and remarked, you seem more at ease today. He glanced at her. I feel calmer than I ever have. She turned, surprised. Calm? I'm glad. A hush fell over them except for the waves. She smiled shyly. I'm happy when you smile. Nate's icy reserve melted. He slipped an arm around her shoulders. Thank you. She closed her eyes, feeling his warmth. For the first time, Nate granted himself the luxury of love and security. Before they left, Clara handed him one last cookie and whispered, tomorrow I'll bring some for your class. He nodded with meaning in his eyes. I'll wait. As she walked away on the soft sand, he watched her, aware that duty and desire were converging in his heart. That night a sudden downpour lashed Havenport, gale-force winds tearing branches free. Clara, in her painting studio, was frantically preparing for tomorrow when she heard a pine snap and crash across her side gate. She threw on a raincoat and raced outside. Rain soaked her hair and shoulders, but she kept going, straining to lift the waterlogged trunk. How will the children get through tomorrow? She fretted. Inside the base, Captain Nate Blackwood was on patrol when his radio crackled the emergency. Donning his rain gear, he sprinted toward the side gate, headlights just outlining the yellow-clad figure struggling with the fallen tree. Clara! He called over the thunder. She looked up, mud splattered and chattering from cold. "You're here. I can't shift it alone." A gust of wind sent a spray of water between them. Nate moved in, draping his jacket over her shoulders, and together they braced against the trunk. Wet earth made the tree heavier, but with coordinated effort they levered it free and rolled it to the roadside. "It's clear now," Clara panted, grateful. He picked up the trunk and pushed it behind the curb. "The city will clear it tomorrow." He turned to her, rain beaded in her hair. "I don't know how to thank you," she said, voice trembling. He placed a hand on her shoulder. "My duty is to protect civilians. You're not a stranger, you're a friend I care about." Her eyes glistened. A tear slipped down her cheek. "I care about you, too." He brushed wet hair from her face. "I'll be here whenever you need me." She stepped into his arms. "Don't keep me waiting." He pressed a quick kiss to her forehead. In that storm-soaked night, the barrier between soldier and teacher was washed away, leaving two hearts entwined. That summer night, Havenport's annual summer gathering filled the streets with lanterns, food stalls, folk games, and lively music. Residents, base personnel, and tourists mingled beneath the salty sea breeze. Clara arrived in the evening with face painting kits, eager to help the elementary school run its free face painting booth. As she painted starfish and seashells on children's cheeks, she heard Nate's voice behind her. "Clara." Turning, she saw him in his windbreaker, but his gaze softened at the sight of her. "I finished my patrol. May I try your work?" he asked. She quickly mixed paints and set him to work on a small girl's face, guiding his brush. When the child's eyes lit up in delight, Clara beamed, and Nate realized how natural he felt among her young artists. Later, the MC invited everyone to a lantern dance. Couples were given paper lanterns and invited to spin in time to the music. Clara hesitated. "Dance with me?" Nate accepted a golden lantern and offered his arm. "Lead, and I'll follow." Under twinkling lights, they spun in gentle circles. He whispered, "You look beautiful in this glow." She laughed, "Your smile outshines any lantern." He dropped his voice, "Then let me treasure you more brightly." Arm in arm, they danced until the final note faded, hearts aglow beneath a canopy of color. At dawn the next morning, Clara arrived early in the multi-purpose room to prepare a painting lesson. She set out easels, paper, and her special lavender sachets to help the children relax. Meanwhile, back at the base, Nate received urgent orders about an upcoming special training exercise. Though weighed down by responsibility, he couldn't shake thoughts of Clara. That morning's class centered on our dream classroom. Clara showed each child how to blend colors for gentle curves. The sound of brushes on paper intermingled with cheerful laughter. Suddenly, Nate entered, greeting Clara formally but carrying a shadow in his eyes. She sensed something was off. "Are you all right?" she asked. He forced a smile. "Fine, just pulled into a sudden assignment." After handing her a set of colored pencils, he slipped to a corner. Inside, he was torn. Next week he would be deployed on a grueling simulated battlefield exercise, possibly for weeks. He slipped out to a confidential briefing with his commander and intelligence officers. "The Phoenix Night exercise starts next week. Blackwood, you lead it," his CO declared. "I need time to wrap up civilian commitments," Nate pleaded. "No, national priority," was the reply. His heart sank. He returned to Clara's class to find her gazing out the window at the pine-clad hills. "Clara, I'm sorry. I leave next week, and it could be more than 3 weeks." She whirled around. 3 weeks? He swallowed hard. "At least." Her voice trembled, "I'll miss you." He swept her into a hug. "I promise I'll return." She rested her head on his chest. I believe you. In that hush, they realized love's first test lay ahead. Can their new bond weather the storms of duty and distance? The next morning, mist still clinging to the pines, Clara drove to the base to say goodbye before Nate's departure. But as she neared the guardhouse, she froze. Nate was speaking on the phone with a civilian woman's laughter in the background, too intimate, too familiar. Snippets floated to Clara's ears, comma tonight wheel. Followed by soft giggles. Panic and hurt swelled in her chest. Does he have someone else? Without a word, she backed out and sped away, ignoring Nate's calls. Inside, Nate, distracted and worried, dashed to the briefing room, unable to call Clara back for fear of making her more upset. Meanwhile, Clara sat in her studio, trying to concentrate on her own painting. She pinpointed the moment her heart twisted. Maybe he found comfort in someone before leaving. Doubt and loneliness gnawed at her. Later, she texted, but the phone rang right into mission prep. Deflated, Clara gathered her materials and left, her gaze lingering on Nate's sunset painting, pink and purple strokes that now wounded her. I'm not the only one in his heart, right? She whispered to the empty room. Early the next morning, Clara rose determined to clear the misunderstanding before Nate's deployment. Under light drizzle, she walked the stone path toward the base gate, clutching her art portfolio. She refused to worry about permits. In her mind, only reconciliation mattered. At the gate she found Nate packing gear by his vehicle. He looked thinner, his eyes shadowed. Spotting her, he froze. Clara. He began, voice catching. Tears brimmed in her eyes. Who were you talking to yesterday? Why those giggles? I thought there was someone else. Nate's gaze softened. You believed what you overheard. She bit her lip. I heard laughter, and sounded like flirting. I was jealous. He stepped closer, took her hand, and held her to his chest. That was my sister, Sophie. I was explaining my deployment. She was relieved. Not a romance, family. Clara's tears overflowed. I'm sorry. I should have asked you first. He brushed a tear away. I understand. You worry because you care, and I worry too. Beneath the morning sky, raindrops mingled with her tears as he held her. I love you, Clara. You're my greatest fear, losing you. I love you too, she whispered. He pressed a kiss to her hair. I'll write you every day, telling you everything. She managed a smile. I'll wait. I believe in your promise. Under the base archway, they sealed it with a tender kiss, proving that love, tested by doubt and distance, had only grown stronger. On a sunny Saturday, Clara awakened Nate with a gentle phone call. The picnic basket was already packed, lemon oat cookies, fresh salad sandwiches, crisp apples, and freshly squeezed orange juice. Nate yawned but brightened at the thought of their date. They met at the sandy trail to a secluded beach, white dunes and the soothing roar of waves. Clara wore a flowing maxi dress. Nate, off-duty in a white tee and khakis, carried the basket. She ran up and wrapped her arms around his. Right on time. Did you prepare everything? He asked with a warm grin. She nodded, and together they spread a cloth on the warm sand, feeding each other bites of sandwich. I love moments like this, Clara said, gazing at a sailboat on the horizon. Because you're not running drills or patrols, it's just us, he replied. They lapsed into comfortable silence, savoring the sun, sea, and each other. Then Clara pulled out her sketchbook. I'll paint this beach today so if we ever part, you can remember me. Nate watched her brush strokes, soft blues meeting warm golds, and felt a pang of love. She gathered some seashells and handed him one. Keep this as a memento. He traced its smooth curve. May every storm be as calm as today. Clara leaned on his knee. I have one wish. He tilted his head. Yes. She smiled radiantly. Let's build a home together, not a base or a classroom, but a family. He squeezed her hand. I agree, and we start with you, my little home. Their lips met in a sweet kiss, waves applauding gently at the shore, sealing a hopeful new beginning. On Sunday morning, Clara waited nervously for Nate to pick her up to visit her parents' country home. The plan was a cozy brunch, a stroll through the rose garden, and tea beneath the old oak. Nate arrived right on time, holding her beach painting. You ready? Clara asked, eyes bright. Always ready with you, he replied, smiling. They drove along verdant fields, the wind tossing Clara's hair, until they reached her parents' white-trimmed cottage, with cascading petunias at the windows. This is it, she said. I'm nervous. He gave her hand a squeeze. You'll do great. Her mother, Helen Bennett, in a rose-embroidered apron, greeted them at the door. Clara dear. And you must be her friend. Nate dipped into a respectful salute. I'm Nate Blackwood. Mrs. Bennett enveloped him in a warm hug. Perfect timing, we're making waffles and pumpkin soup. Clara laughed. Mom's the friendliest host, don't mind her. Her father, George Bennett, emerged and extended his hand. Welcome, Captain Blackwood. I'm George. They sat down to a rustic wooden table piled with waffles, organic salad, and fresh basil. Over tea, her parents peppered Nate with questions about base duty, and Mrs. Bennett declared, protecting civilians is noble work. Clara chimed in, proudly showing him the beach painting. He's quite the artist. George raised an eyebrow. A stern soldier with a talented hand, impressive. Nate smiled modestly. Art helps me unwind. The meal ended with laughter. Her mother led them into the rose garden where they clipped blossoms for photos. Nate gently lifted a coral rose to Clara's nose. Reminds me of our sunset, he murmured. Clara leaned in. And reminds me of you. They paused under the oak swing as Mrs. Bennett called them in for herbal honey tea. Her father raised his cup to Nate. I'm very pleased you brought Clara home. You're a blessing. Nate met Clara's eyes. I treasure her more than anything. Mrs. Bennett patted his shoulder. We'll always welcome you. Just keep our daughter happy. He looked at Clara, resolute. I promise to protect and cherish her. Clara squeezed his hand. You are my home. Their brunch concluded in warmth and blessing, Nate officially part of the Bennett family, taking a vital step toward their shared future. Before his deployment, Clara planned a skills exchange day so they could experience each other's worlds. She arrived first at the base firing range in jeans and sneakers, heart fluttering at the sight of Nate's practice table. He greeted her with 2 lightweight replica pistols and protective goggles. Ready to try military discipline? He teased. Clara swallowed and nodded. I'll do my best. Under his careful instruction, she learned to steady her spine, grip, and breathing before pulling the trigger. Her first shot missed the bullseye, she flinched, but Nate guided her stance. Steady now, slow breath, gentle squeeze. After a few adjustments, her second shot hit center. Her face lit up. I did it. He patted her shoulder. Better than I expected. Next he accompanied her to her weekend watercolor studio, where she taught him horizon washes and wet-on-wet blends. His first attempts were tentative, then gradually more fluid. You balance color beautifully, she praised. He looked at her shyly. Because you taught me. Together they stepped back to admire her sunset and his beachscape, 2 visions united by emotion. She laid a hand on his sky. Your art inspires me. He touched her clouds in return. Because of you, I dared. Finally they prepared dinner in her tiny kitchen. She showed him sushi rolls. he taught her a simple mending stitch on her favorite shirt. Their laughter filled the air, the scent of rice vinegar and sesame warming the small space. Over juice they toasted, to our exchange day. She grinned, one for the grandkids to hear about. He agreed, eyes glowing, and the first of many. In sharing their passions, they wove their lives together, soldier and artist painting a future in full color. Monday morning, Clara arrived at class to find Nate's phone buzzing with an urgent order. The Phoenix night exercise had been moved up. He had a 2-hour window to prepare. His text to Clara was brief, "I must leave now. I'm sorry." Her heart sank. She called, but he was already in security lockdown. On the school grounds, she sat on a stone bench, the children asking why she looked sad. She forced a smile. "I just miss Captain Nate." Back at his home base, Nate loaded his kit onto a helicopter, touching the photo of Clara taped to his locker. "I'll return as soon as I can," he whispered. 2 hours later, the helicopter rose into the morning sky. On the beach below, Clara stood behind the fence, holding up his painting. "Wait for me, okay?" she mouthed to the disappearing aircraft. For the next 3 weeks, Clara immersed herself in teaching. Each morning, she reread Nate's promise, "I will write every day." She stashed each letter in her sketchbook, feeling his warmth despite the miles. One afternoon she received his letter and a photo of a desert sunset, his training ground. He wrote, "I long to see this with you tomorrow, I miss you." Tears rolled down her cheek as she replied silently, "I miss you too." They both found strength in those words. Halfway through the Phoenix night exercise, Nate's unit was flown to the Iridian Desert for a simulated sandstorm challenge. To raise realism, giant fan arrays unleashed torrents of sand, visibility dropped to mere yards. Nate's team was ordered to fall back to a makeshift bunker. He rallied them over the wind's roar, "Form 2-meter intervals behind me, follow my lead." Masked and buffeted by grit, their world became a white haze. Nate thought of Clara's shells and ocean sunsets as he pushed forward. Over his radio, "Move out." At a sudden halt, a teammate slipped, sending a rifle clattering. Enemy actors emerged from swirling dust, plastic rounds tracing close misses. Nate barked, "Retreat to the bunker. Smoke cover." They deployed smoke grenades and withdrew safely. Inside the reinforced emplacement, he pulled out Clara's photo, tracing her smile through grit. "I'll come back," he vowed. Back in Havenport, Clara heard of the simulation via base email alerts. Worried, she and her fellow teachers and parents organized a prayer vigil. The children painted pictures of calm skies and peaceful seas, believing positive energy could shield the soldiers. After 8 tense hours the storm ended. At dawn, Nate and his team emerged, coated in desert dust. A comrade handed Nate a small envelope. "To Blackwood, from Clara." He opened it beneath the morning sun breaking through the bunker crack. "I'm praying for you and your team. I'm proud of you, come home safely." A single grain of sand fell from his old beach painting, as though washed away by her faith. Nate smiled, "I will survive, for her." With the sandstorm behind them, the unit rested for 24 hours before their final night operation. Nate was tasked with leading a tactical team through a darkness assault, requiring absolute focus. Alone for a moment, he fingered the seashell Clara had given him. Could he fulfill his duty and honor his promise? He closed his eyes, recalling her laughter in the studio and their shared rifle range and watercolor lessons. Love and duty warred in his heart. That night, on a blackened dune, Nate guided his team through stealth drills. A fellow soldier stumbled, his weapon clanked, and enemy role players sprang up. Nate froze, then shouted commands to deploy smoke screens. Amid the chaos, he felt the fragility of life, and the urgency to return to Clara. After securing a simulated victory, he reported in, mission complete. Alone in the darkness, he whispered, I'm sorry for keeping you waiting. I will come back. His commanding officer clapped him on the shoulder. Outstanding work, Blackwood. Now go home. Nate nodded, a determined smile on his lips, drive renewed by the thought of being reunited with his love. On the first day of the new school year, children filed into the playground for the flag ceremony. Clara stood at her easel near the entrance, holding the dune painting she'd made during Nate's absence. As the school banner rose, she felt a familiar tremor in her heart. Suddenly the side gate creaked open. In full dress uniform, Captain Nathaniel Nate Blackwood stepped onto the grounds, a bright smile on his rugged face. The students gasped and turned to him. Ms. Bennett, students, he greeted, walking calmly to the chalkboard wall where Clara stood. She dropped the canvas, ran forward, and threw her arms around him, tears streaming. You came back. He hugged her tightly. I promised I would. The children cheered and surrounded them. The principal stepped forward to shake Nate's hand. We're so glad you're safe. Nate looked at Clara, his gaze tender. I missed you both. In that moment of applause and tears, Clara knew she was never alone again. The soldier who had guarded her heart was finally home. Later that afternoon, Nate led Clara to their favorite beach, where the sunset always painted the sky pink. He held a small wooden box engraved with Bennett, heart emoji, Blackwood. Clara opened it to find 2 silver bracelets etched with always and forever. Kneeling in the sand, he spoke softly, Clara Bennett, you gave me hope, love, and a reason to return. I vow to stand by you through every storm. Will you marry me? Tears of joy filled her eyes. Yes, yes, I will. He lifted her into his arms, kissing her gently as waves lapped at their feet, and somewhere beyond the dunes, hidden loved ones cheered. 3 months later, beneath the pines by the shore, friends from the base and Clara's teaching colleagues gathered. A simple white arch, pastel roses, and a wooden table with ribbon adorned the sand. Clara wore a flowing silk gown and a braided updo. Nate donned a navy vest and tie. As Clara walked the sandy aisle on her father's arm, Nate waited below, eyes glistening. The officiant, one of Clara's former teachers, began, Nate and Clara, your love has weathered trials and distance. May you always cherish one another, like the sea embraces every wave. They exchanged rings as the ocean breeze lifted ribbons. Family and friends applauded softly, lanterns twinkling in the twilight. A small beach reception followed, coconut cake, acoustic guitar, and candlelight, where they toasted their enduring bond, to love everlasting. In the months that followed, Clara and Nate settled into a cozy seaside cottage. One corner was her art studio, another held his uniform neatly pressed. Clara taught weekend painting classes, and Nate returned early from patrols whenever he could. One morning Clara entered the bedroom to find Nate gently tucking in their toddling son by the crib. The little boy reached for a tiny canvas, Clara's first sunset painting, his laughter pure. Nate caught Clara's eye, then placed a hand on her belly, another child on the way. We will never be alone, he whispered. Clara smiled, resting her hand on his. And we will always have each other, forever. As sunlight danced on the ocean beyond, their little family embraced the next chapter, one painted with love, hope, and the promise of happily ever after.